favorite thing to do, but any runner will tell you how powerful it is to be completely and utterly alone with your thoughts while on a run. Everyone has a space like that, a space where they can go to just exist, even if it's not for very long. That place for me is running, but I always have to keep one foot on the ground at all times. Last July, Molly Tibbetts, a 20-year-old University of Iowa student, went missing while on a run. A little over a month later, her body was found discarded in a cornfield a few miles from where she'd last been seen. Molly's case is tragic, but it's not the only one of its kind. Last summer, 3 women were murdered within a span of 9 days while running. Did they go out at a bad time? Were they running in unfamiliar territory? All 3 were running on routes they'd traversed safely before. Their only mistake, as it turns out, was being female and running alone. According to a survey performed by Runner's World magazine, 43% of women report at least sometimes experiencing harassment while running. This can mean being grabbed, touched, catcalled, flashed, or followed. Now, luckily, I rarely run alone, and when I'm with my teammates, I never think about this graph. But it's impossible to never run alone. And over the course of my running career, I've been told a series of rules and tips to follow for when I am running alone. The first rule is to try not to run alone in the first place. Carry a phone in case something happens. Don't wear 2 earbuds. You have to hear everything that's going on around you, whether you like it or not. Don't run in unfamiliar neighborhoods, and always tell someone where you're going before you're leaving. It looks like I'm running out of room here. Let me see if I can fit a few more on there. Don't run in the early morning or after sunset, or if it's a little bit dark. Always pay attention to who's around you. You know, they make these really nice pepper sprays that are bright pink and designed to fit exactly into the shape of a female's hand. And don't attract any unwanted attention. And you should probably know how to defend yourself. They have classes for that. It really looks like I should have gotten a bigger slide. Now, these all seem like common sense, right? But upon interrogating my male teammates and friends about the rules that they followed, the list was a lot shorter. It was just wear shoes. I didn't realize that I had to run differently until I was 13 years old. Before then, I'd always gone on runs with my dad, but eventually it was time for me to experience what it was like to go run solo. One summer day, I was on a country road a little less than 2 miles away from my house. I was running, minding my own business, not paying much attention, when a truck came down the road. And I suddenly started to pay attention when the truck slowed down significantly upon approaching me. The windows were tinted, so I couldn't see the driver, and it unnerved me a little bit. So I continued on my way. The truck passed me, but while my back was turned, the truck turned around, and it idled behind me for a couple seconds, following me, before speeding away. It was only a couple seconds, but it felt like an eternity. And as soon as the truck sped away, I turned on my heel and bolted back home as frantically and quickly as I could. I came home safely that day, but I would never run alone the same way ever again. I didn't know what that truck was doing, but almost 5 years later, I still snap to attention whenever I see a car passing me on the road. And the stories of girls like Molly sit in the back of my mind on nearly every run. I think about the woman from Littleton, where I used to grow up, who this summer was dragged by a rope around her neck into the woods in her suburban area and sexually assaulted this summer. I think about how, by just existing by myself, I've become a target. I think about how I'll never get to run like this little girl ever again. There are some truly amazing stories of survival. Kelly Herron was assaulted in a public park bathroom in Seattle in the middle of her run. And she fought. She clawed and scratched and screamed, "Not today," in her attacker's face. The frantic zigzagging lines created by her GPS watch during the assault went viral. They became this symbol of survival. Now, Eagle County is not Seattle. It's a relatively safe and friendly friendly place to live. In my hometown of Gypsum, I have no reason to be outwardly afraid of what might happen to me when I go on a run. But the truth is that location really doesn't matter. It happened in Seattle, it happened in rural Iowa, it happened in Littleton, and it has happened in Eagle County. Young, old, fast, slow, morning, midday, nighttime, suburbs, country roads, packed cities, it doesn't matter. Now, my intention here isn't to scare anyone that doesn't feel this way when they go on runs. And it also isn't my intention to make male runners feel bad that they don't have to experience this. But this is something that happens and sits in the backs of the minds of so many of us, but is never really spoken about. I want to examine how this underlying fear makes a lot of us women change our behavior without even noticing that we're changing it, or stopping to think about how wrong it is that we have to do so. I don't want to pretend anymore that nothing is wrong with this. When I realized that I had to run differently, I was angry. I stewed and pouted and complained about how unfair it was. I started to wonder if maybe I should try a different hobby that didn't put me in harm's way. But then I grew up even more, and I realized that it's not just running. I don't just have to run differently, I have to live differently. And so does every other woman in this country. Now you see, the only way that I can start to solve this problem is by talking about it. The part that makes me upset is that there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do except be prepared in case I end up being in one of those horror stories. But when I think about it, I am doing something. I'm doing something because I'm standing here in front of all of you and I'm talking about it, which I think is the only way that I can start to advocate for myself. Now here's the part where you come in. To me, Kelly's battle cry of "not today" means clawing and scratching and screaming and fighting for yourself when you're placed in the most horrifying of situations. I want you to rise up and say "not today" to even the smallest of factors that lead to women living in fear. And right now, I'm not only just asking women to stand up for themselves, I'm asking for men to help too. I want you to help me. I want you to help your mothers, sisters, girlfriends, neighbors, lab partners. I want you to help the people that you're sharing this planet with. It's certainly going to lead to some uncomfortable conversations. We're having an uncomfortable conversation right now. But if people are uncomfortable, it means that something could be changing. If the discomfort of a few people could lead to less women being killed, if it leads to me and my friends living safer adult lives, if it leads to fewer tragedies like Molly's, I think that we should take that discomfort and run with it. Thank you.